know Jake's rapid rise to success has been down to his hard work and dedication to his craft, boasting some insane weekly mileage and most recently introducing triple days into his training. But when Cole Gibbons ran the race of his life at London Marathon, clocking a stellar 2:16 on arguably a tough day with the heat, you might question what these two brilliant runners have in common, and the answer: high mileage. Now, high mileage isn't new, which is why they're not changing the game, but I think what they are doing is busting the myth that quality over quantity is better. Now, I will throw a caveat into that statement because of course a lot of people will be like, oh, hold on a minute, you cannot neglect quality in your training, and you are absolutely right. I think for those time crunched runners who run lower mileage, getting the right amount of quality into your training is super important, and I feel like that's where you are going to make more gains than if you just run the majority of your mileage easy. But when you get up into the triple digits of mileage, that's when the balance starts to tip, and what these two are doing is not setting that magical 100-mile week as their cap. They're breaking well beyond that and really pushing the limits of what they can squeeze out of themselves in a week. Now, if you're a relatively new runner, I just want to quickly break down why this is so important before we get back to the main talking point of this video. Now, what we often see from newer runners getting into the sport is they jump from training plan to training plan. They might have started on a couch to 5k, moved to a 5 to 10k plan, and then got onto a 10k plan to get their 10k time a bit sharper, and then progressed up to a half marathon plan and continually stay on that trajectory. And that's absolutely fine, by the way, if you're looking to just get fitter and want someone to take away the stress of training for you. You put that into someone else's hands, whether it be a coach, whether it be a training plan you download, whether it be an app, whatever it might be. However, the downside of that is never really spending time developing your aerobic engine, which of course you will hear that buzzword thrown around a lot, which basically means spending a lot of time below your aerobic threshold, which is basically zones 1 and zones 2. And what this means is the more time you spend in those lower zones, the more efficient you become as a runner. You'll often see a pyramid diagram used as an example of how your fitness works, and with this zone model it's a great example of that. Zones 1 and 2 are below your aerobic threshold, or below LT1, and the best marathoners in the world spend a fair amount of time here. And I'll include Jake and Cole in this, seeing as the video is about their performance and how high mileage has helped them achieve some wild times. Zone 3 is where a lot of us, but not all of us, start our marathons in, and that's often labelled as the grey zone, but don't fall for that. And then zone 4 is working just below and up to your aerobic threshold, and often the zone a lot of us, but not all of us, will finish our marathons in. And zone 5 at the top can often be where our fast intervals fall in. But ultimately, the key to success in a marathon is to have really strong foundations in zone 1 and zone 2 for a couple of reasons really. Number one, it's just a case of being able to layer all the other training on top and your body be in a position to handle that. If you don't have that strong foundation in zones 1 and zone 2 and you start to layer a load of marathon work and faster work on top, your body is just going to break down. And number two, it makes us much more efficient from a fuel utilization standpoint across the longer distances. So now that explanation's out of the way, let's take a quick look at Jake. I've already done a video on his training, so we won't spend too much time here, but it's really important just for me to reiterate the volume of mileage that this guy was doing during his Tokyo marathon build-up, and more recently he's increased that once again. He's added in triple days, he's up to 250 kilometers a week. It's absolutely crazy. But going back to his Tokyo build, he was hitting around 220 to 230 kilometers in some of his peak weeks, which is around about 135 miles. We often hear from elite athletes that they're running in the realms of around 110 to 130 miles. So to be above that is few and far between. There's not too many people pushing above the threshold of those 130 mile weeks or 230k weeks. And I'm fine with Jake. When I was analysing his training, it was a pretty traditional sort of Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday setup where he might be doing a Tuesday and Thursday session and then a weekend long run, or if he was racing, which he did a fair bit during his Tokyo marathon build-up, his Thursday session would be quite light so that he would be a little bit fresher, but he certainly didn't back off the mileage. He'd replace what he lost in the session with easy runs, or sometimes he might just do one session in the week, and every other day of the week he'd be doubling, doing easy miles, getting in a good amount of solid zone 1 and zone 2 work. Cole approached things slightly differently, but when you break it down and you lay everything out, it very much translates to be very similar to Jake. Cole did a double threshold day on a Tuesday for a lot of his weeks of his training, meaning he got 2 sessions done in one day. They were very controlled. The first one in the morning was often 5x2k around LT1, so that's very much a case of top end zone 2, low end zone 3. And then in the evening he'd do things like 24x60 seconds at his LT2, which is getting up close to his anaerobic threshold, top end of zone 4. So that's where he'd spend his Tuesday workout days. He'd then do a medium long run on the Wednesday, which was in and around 75% of what his weekend long run would be. But again, that was only an easy or a steady pace. His Monday was easy. His Thursday would also be easy, steady. and Friday too. He'd do a big marathon session on the weekend, and he would also do a nice, easy to steady long run on the Sunday. So in there, in terms of, let's say, quality, he had his Tuesday double threshold and he had his marathon session on the weekend. And for the majority of his other miles, he would just do easy and steady running. So Cole was very forthcoming when I asked him about his training. The one thing that he said he swore by, which is really interesting because I talked about this in a recent video actually, is he threw strides on the end of pretty much every single easy run that he did, between 4 to 8 of them, and he said it just kept his legs feeling fresh and feeling sharp. And in terms of Cole's peak volume, I think he peaked around 222 kilometers or 138 miles. So you can see once again he's well at the top end of what you would potentially see elite runners achieving in their weekly training. And if you break that down over a week and you look at the fact that he just does one double session on a Tuesday and then a big marathon session on a weekend, and the rest of that mileage is easy and steady, you can very much see there that he's just prioritizing volume over anything else. Now what I will also say with Cole is on a few weekends he did do some races, and I think he moved a few things around to accommodate that. So maybe where he missed a marathon session, he might have moved that to the next day or just swapped things around. So on the odd week he did throw an extra little bit of intensity in there, but on the whole it was very much volume over anything else. Now what can we take from this? Well, regardless of if you're double thresholding, single workouting, or even triple daying, it doesn't matter, because ultimately at the end of the day these boys have proved that mileage is king, and we've known this for a long time. You could argue on one hand that Jake had a more traditional structure of Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday or Sunday if he was racing for the majority of his training, whereas Cole was doing Tuesday and Saturday and the rest filling in with lots of easy and steady mileage and strides. Cole's marathon workouts on the weekend seemed to be a little bit meatier than what Jake's was doing in terms of quality, but then Jake's long run volume was more than Cole's. So in the end, if you iron everything out, they very much balance each other out. And as I've said a few times now, the thing that they both have in common is the majority of their mileage was spent in that lower end zone 1 and zone 2, easy and steady state, making them ridiculously efficient. So yes, mileage is king, we know that, and why am I trying to explain this? Well, it's always been the way, but I think in recent years people have drifted away from that notion slightly and become a little bit more focused on what looks good to others on social media, maybe what looks more exciting or potentially what's trendy right now, when in fact all you guys need to remember, and including myself in this, is number one, lifetime miles matters when it comes to running marathons, whether you like it or not. Trust me when I say if you're new to the marathon game and you've built yourself up sensibly and you've just run your first marathon, maybe it went to plan or it didn't quite go to plan, keep plugging away. Keep getting more marathon blocks under your belt as you go. I always urge people to take breaks for marathons and switch their training up and focus on different stimulus, but ultimately when you get round to it and you're ready to take on that next marathon block, just remember you're going to be in a better position than your first marathon training block, and that continues throughout your running life cycle. Number two, don't overcomplicate things. Ultimately, as I've just said in my little monologue there, a lot of people like to do potentially what's trendy, what's working, what's not, and as I've just highlighted, it actually doesn't matter if you do double threshold, if you do single threshold, if you do really hard workouts, if you do triple days. Ultimately, when you iron everything out over the week, as long as that ratio of mileage is balanced in the favor of easy zone 1 and zone 2 work, then you will be absolutely fine. And finally, number three, if you're midway through a marathon training block, or any training block for that matter, and you feel cooked, you feel like you're overdoing it, back off the intensity and just drop in some easier miles. These boys, once again, as per a lot of other people, have proved that mileage is king over anything else. You are not going to lose fitness if you start to drop off all the workouts you're doing. If you decide to replace those with some easier miles for the next 2 or 3 weeks just to regain a bit of composure and not feel quite as burnt out as you were, you will be in a far better position moving forwards than if you were to persist with your current training. And I would just like to wrap this video up by saying a massive congrats to Cole on his incredible performance. And of course, Jake, I hope you're feeling better, and I can't wait to see you take your time down even more. I think both of you, what you're doing is you're just stripping everything back and you're showcasing what everybody already knows, but I think people often forget because there's so many other shiny, magical and wonderful things out there and weird and wacky ways that people want to train. And the fact is, they keep it simple, they do the job, and their results show. If you enjoyed this video, guys, I'll make sure I leave a link to the more detailed breakdown of Jake's training up here from when he ran Tokyo Marathon this year, and I'll leave a link down here so you can see how a 2:07 marathon runner trains as well. And guess what? You won't be surprised to hear it's not too dissimilar from these boys, and I'll see you guys over on one of those.